I'm looking at the robot game rulebook, and the first mission that I'd like to code is mission number 5, the smart grid, where we will score 20 points for raising the connector and 30 points if on the day of the event the team running the game alongside us also raises their smart connector. We're going to need to program our robot to drive from the launch area, this semicircle here, across the board to the smart connector and then pull this red tab to lift the smart connector up. Let's have a look at doing that now. The first thing we need to decide is the position our robot starts in. I could place it down here, but each time the robot runs the mission, we need to make sure it runs it from the exact same spot. So I like to use these lines on the table to help me align it. You could also use some Lego or build a little parking space to help align your robot quickly each time. I'm going to put the robot with its back against the back wall so it's sitting on the edge of the table, and I'll use these lines to line up the wheel right on that first line here. Now the first thing we're going to need the robot to do is drive forward ever so slightly before turning, driving forward and turning again to line itself up with the smart grid. Let's have a look at our code for that now. We have our movement motors down here, and the first thing we're going to do is set our movement motors to A and E. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tell the robot, well, let's set the movement speed to half speed just as we're coding it to make sure everything is nice and precise. We're going to move forward for, well, a rotation of the motor is one rotation of the wheel from start position all the way back to the same position. I like to use rotations rather than centimeters or degrees. And we're going to move forward. Let's see what happens when we move forward one rotation. Way too far. Okay, let's reduce that down to 0.2 rotations. Perfect. Next we want to turn the robot to the right. So I'll take my move right block here. I'll change the measurements to rotations. And I don't want it to move forward and turn, I want it to spin on the spot. So I'll turn it 100% right for, well, let's see what one rotation does again. Way too much. Let's try reposition again. Let's try 0.2 rotations. That's close. I think we might need to turn just ever so slightly a little bit more. Let me move up the camera so you can see more clearly. So we're going to move forward 0.2 rotations. We're going to turn right 0.3 rotations. And then we want to move forward again up along that central path to the smart grid. Let's position that camera all the way up there. Okay. So we've got our move forward, our turn right, and let's tell it to move forward again. And I reckon 2 rotations might get us close. Close. We need to go a little bit further. Let's try 2.5 rotations. Let me move the camera so you can see. We want to move right to here before we turn left to line ourselves up with the smart grid. Now, move forward 2.5 rotations and then we'll turn left. Well, let's test this before we start thinking about the next turn. I think we're onto it. Okay. Now, something we can do is we can test just the next piece on its own. We take out our movement motors, or our movement blocks, and just put our left turn here. And we want it to turn left on the spot. We want it only to do a small left turn, about as much as it turned right earlier. So let's try 0.3. I think if we look closely, that's just a little bit too much of a turn. Alright, let's pop ourselves back at the beginning and run all of that code again while reducing that turn left. We'll pop our left turn at the very bottom here and we'll reduce it. So 2.5 or 0.25 rotations. Here we go. Now we're pointing ever so slightly askew. So we've gone a little bit too far. And it's making these small bit by bit adjustments that will dial in our program just right. And this is exactly how, well, it's a lot like how very many software developers work. They write a piece of code, they test it, they debug it. That's what we're doing now. Let's try 0.275. And let's tell it to move forward, run 1 rotation, and see how close that takes us now. We are very close. 1.5 rotations forward at the end. The next thing we'll want to do is lower this bulldozer arm to pull. I think we've gone just a little bit too far because we're going to block ourselves off there. So let's try that again. 1.5 rotations forward at the end is a little bit too much. What about 1.3 rotations? I think that just might be close enough. The next thing we'll code is we'll tell it to lower that arm and see if that catches our red tab. So this arm here is motor D in our code. Let's quickly test. We'll find it up here in the blue box. Motor D. Let's tell it to run clockwise for 1 rotation and see what happens. That's to move it up. Let's try and move it down. That's it. Okay. We want our robot to drive all the way to the smart grid and lower its arm, let's say for 1 second rather than for 1 rotation, so that it doesn't hold the code up if it can't make a full turn. Now, you'll notice that the arm hasn't reset itself. Back up at the top, we're going to need to tell it to do that. So let's start our program by telling it to run motor D clockwise for 1 second. Alright. And we'll run our test. A little bit short. We just need to move forward a tiny bit more. So where's that move forward? That is right here. Let's try going forward 1.4 rotations. Very close. We'll try and move forward ever so slightly more. Where are we at? 1.45 rotations forward. That's done it. It's lifted the arm. Now we need to pull our bulldozer arm, whoops, back up and then move back to the home area, which is anywhere along this side in this launch semicircle, or along this side of the table, or in fact on this side. We're going to come back to this spot here. So all we'll need to add is to duplicate and run motor D clockwise for 1 second to lift it up. Then let's just try and move backwards for the exact same amount of time we moved, or the exact same distance in rotations that we moved forward, so that's 1.45. Oh. Not bad. I think I forgot to reset the smart grid there, so we'll have to do that next. Let's reset the smart grid and turn. We'll need to turn, well, it'll be a right turn, so I'll take my right turn. We wanted to turn on the spot, so we'll go here, and we only want quite a slight right turn, just like before, so we want to turn right 0.3 rotations. Let's run all of that code and see. And then all we'll need to do is go straight back to get back to the home or the launch area. So we'll want to move backwards for, let's say, 3 rotations. That should get us all the way back and then some. And that is it. That is mission number 5, the smart grid, 20 points on the table. Now that we've written that code, we'll want to make sure that we save it. I'm going to rename my project Mission 05 Smart Grid. Save it. And also, I'm going to make sure that I know and I make a note that on the Lego hub that is saved as mission 0. The reason for that is on event day, when you are running your first and second and third attempts at the robot game, you won't have a computer to adjust your code throughout. Everything you do must be done here on the robot. So our code is saved to mission 0 here. We'll place our robot, we'll select mission 0, and we'll run our code just off the robot, like that. We'll return home, we'll position our robot in the position we want for the next mission, and we'll select the next piece of code, like that. You'll do this as many times as you can, for as many missions as you can, for 2.5 minutes to maximize your score.